What's going on, everybody? It's your boy MotoManDan, and today we're going to be taking a look at the temple. More specifically, we're going to be taking a look at the sacrifices that you make in the 4th tier temple, and does it even matter when you get to the 5th tier temple? The TLDR is that it really doesn't, unless you pick the primary military support combination. That's sacrificing 50,000 in primary, 50,000 in military, 50,000 in support, and then that turns into the 4th tier temple. And then that doesn't perform very well. And if you go VTSG or you just get the True Sun God, it doesn't perform as well as the others. The other three, relatively the same. That being primary military magic, primary magic support, military magic support. My recommendation is to pick one of the two that gives support. Either primary magic support or military magic support, because they perform just as good as a primary military magic. However, they benefit all of the other towers that are around. They make them cheaper, they give them range, they give them damage, all sorts of things. Now, in this test, we're going to take a look at a few things. We're going to take a look at the 25,000 sacrificing with all possible combinations for the 4th tier. Then we're going to take a look at the 50,000 money sacrificing with all combinations with the 4th tier. Then in the 5th tier test, I use the primary military magic kind of as the base, because it's really the first one, and I don't have to do any extra calculations to figure out 50,000 when you get the support, buff and stuff like that. So we're going to take a look at basically what combination is the best. Now, when you do these sacrifices, you don't have to do 25,000. You don't have to do 50,000. There's actually a lot of bonuses that you can get getting up to that point. So if you miss the 50,000 by a little bit, it's not the end of the world. You're still going to get bonuses if you're at 25, if you're at 10, if you're at 5, if you're at 1, and all that information can be found on the wiki page. For this video, we're trying to make it a little bit scientific in our approach to figure out what truly is the best, and I didn't want to have to run through the 1,000, the 5,000, the 10,000, because it's probably going to be relatively similar to everything else. It's just going to be less than everything else. Now, I wanted to take a moment to talk about the method of testing. So I went ahead and used the, as close as I can get into the middle, the Super Monkey. Now, I figured this map is appropriate because it's a temple map and we're building temples. It's Adora's temple. As a matter of fact, it's got a special little Easter egg you may have seen in the very beginning, where the map turns black and the pools turn red. And that happens when you get the Vengeful True Sun God and you have a level 20 Adora. She becomes a Voidora, or a Vengeful Adora. And the map changes as well. It's a really cool mechanic in this map. As part of testing, not only do we pick the same map every time, and we try to put the Super Monkey in the same spot. He's generally in the same spot. But we also ended up started to go for the MIB. You'll see in some of this video, we have the radar scanner. At a certain point, I start using the MIB, and I realized that the darts from the planes granted by the military upgrade don't pierce DDTs. And so we had a problem on round 98 with the primary military magic getting past, or 99, getting past round 99. And so when I got the MIB, we actually got the 25k primary military magic. We got that past the 99 jump, and it got all the way beat 105. So I did go back and I retested everything with that had military with the MIB, and it definitely helped. So if you do go military, 25k, or if you go 50k with military, I'd highly recommend getting the MIB. Now, another thing to note is the sun avatars that spawn with the magic when you get the 50,000. The sun avatars only show up at 50,000 on magic. So if you're going to go magic, go 50,000, because it's just not that helpful otherwise. The only other thing it's helpful for is to send back Moabs, and it's only a % chance to do that every hit. The sun avatars, they seem to act very similarly to the turrets from the engineer. I went ahead and placed a bunch of little dart monkeys around to try and see if I could force all of the sun avatars to the top. But then I realized the dart monkeys are actually getting a lot of pops because the support temple is so strong. It's just not going to be a viable testing option. There's going to be too much variable given in. So I figured, you know what? If I always place a temple in the same spot or relatively the same spot, then the sun avatars should also show up around the same spot. Now, the sun avatars cannot see through walls unless you get the Vengeful True Sun God. Those avatars are able to see through walls. But the True Sun God and the Sun Temple, those avatars are not able to see through walls. Kind of wish they would have made the 5th tier. You know, that seems like a bit of a strange thing for the 5th tier. The True Sun God, I would imagine, or at least I would hope maybe they can change that at some point. But I would almost expect it to be able to see through walls because of how expensive it truly is. Now, the way the sacrificing works, when you place a Super Monkey and you go for the top path, which is how you get to the temple, as soon as you purchase the Sun Temple, the 4th tier top path Super Monkey, it's going to sacrifice everything in its radius. So one of the things that you don't want to do is get the increased range before sacrificing if you want to save things outside of that range. The minute you get the increased range, that will be the new sacrifice range. So if you wanted to stack other temples, do it before you get the increased range. Now, going support gives you a little bit of range as well. Getting a village next to him gives you a little bit of range as well. So you're going to have to kind of mess around with how you set that range up if you're going to go multiple temples. Because the support temple can buff a true sun god that has support as well. They can kind of buff each other. It does stack. But you have to get a secondary support temple to support that temple. Now here I want to show you some of the results that I found. Now this chart, everything you're going to see in this chart, all of those round numbers, those are, and I don't mean the numbers being round, I mean the numbers represent the round that I was able to complete. So the round after that I lost. So for example, the 420 temple with the MIB with no sacrifices beat round 81, did not beat round 82. And so you can take a look at the 25k spent on primary is actually really good because it got all the way to 98 to 99, lost on 99. But those DDTs, those reinforced DDTs on round 99 were just too much for it to handle. The military lags a little bit behind the magic, and then the support really doesn't matter too much. It gives it a small amount of range, but it just doesn't buff the tower itself. Now I think this is for one particular reason, and that's the primary gives the temple itself a lot of buffs. The military just has alternate damage. The magic at 25k doesn't summon the little avatars, so its damage is also reduced, and its effectiveness is reduced. So if you're going to go for 25k in just one of them, or any of them, I'd recommend just doing the primary. Skip the rest of them. Don't even do the combinations. Just go primary unless you're willing to spend another 50,000 for 25k in military, 25k in magic. So we had the primary military and primary magic both getting stuck on 99, not being able to complete it. Primary support actually got stuck on 98. And I think this is because support gives it a little bit of range. And so whenever it was popping things, its targeting priority wasn't as effective as it would be without the support. So that's the only time that it ever got hurt from additional upgrades, is the 25k primary support. Then we had 25k military magic, not being able to get past 95. Military support not being able to get past 93. You can see support did not help military at all because it couldn't do that by itself without support. And then we have the primary military magic, like I said, is the best one. With the MIB, it's able to get past the 99, the round 99, which a lot of these other ones struggled with, and make it all the way up, beating 105. We had the primary magic support and the primary military support not being able to get past 98, with the 25k and the military magic support not being able to get past 95. You can see that the DDTs are actually the problem. 99 has reinforced DDTs, 95 has a lot of DDTs. Those rounds are the difficult ones, 93 as well. Next, we have the 50k category. Now, the 50k primary didn't help it at all, spending the extra money. The military gave us an extra 2 rounds, beating 94, losing to 95. Again, no more DDTs. And the 50k magic, surprisingly, actually gave us a lot of rounds. Took us all the way beating 107. We lost on 108, and that's because of the Sun avatars. They just do so much damage, and they're super helpful. Support didn't matter, again, 81, so that's a thing. And then we've got the mixtures. So we've got the 50k primary military, losing on 106, primary magic, losing on 119, primary support, losing on 98, because, again, support doesn't really help primary or military at all. Military magic loses on 112, military support 98, of course. Magic support 117, we're beating that. And then we get to kind of the cream of the crop, which is where you get the combo of 3. And this is what you would need to get maximum temples and maximum VTSG. Now, the primary military magic and the military magic support both got 127. The primary magic support got 128. That difference is negligible. It could have been a little bit of RNG maybe, but all 3 of them have magic. And so that should tell you something. Now, the primary military support only got 105 because support does not help primary or military do anything. So basically those two together got to 105, beat 105 with an added 50k support. Didn't help it at all. Then we're going to move over to the maximum stuff. The buffed VTSG with the Vengeful Adora and all the buffs and everything I gave it, other than the ones I didn't know about, like we talked about earlier, the Admiral Brickle. All of the heroes I didn't have. I just had Adora and the Top Path boat. Those ones I didn't know about, those two, the water stuff. Also, if you do this on something like 1-2 Tree, or if you freeze the water on Polyphemus, you might have also differing results. Of course, those are just different maps, so you'll have differing results as well and how far you can get. But for this map and for these tests, at the beginning of the video, you saw what that test was. That was with the primary military magic combination. Just because the support combination, really I would recommend it when you're building other things, but I'm not building anything else, so just that. And I wanted to see just how far he got, basically. But the primary military magic got to 245. Or beat 245, got to 246, lost on 246. The Vengeful True Sun God. Now, this is the one, because you have to max everything. So, on the 4th tier spending, I put the 50k in the 4 different combination of categories. And the only one that didn't do so well was the primary military support. Like I said before, in the 420 temple with the maxed out primary military support, only got to 105, beat 105, lost on 106. With the Vengeful True Sun God, it lagged behind again with beating 169, losing to 170. The other 3 were the exact same. So much so that we actually died to the exact same balloons, regardless of which one I chose. So primary military magic support, military magic support. I ran the test to try and figure out which one was the strongest, and I was going to use that to run all of the different combinations with the 520 temple. But since they're all the same, I just figured I would just run primary military magic, because they ended up just being the same. Now, a blank True Sun God, that's a True Sun God without any of the sacrifices when you get to 5th tier, having the 4th tier sacrifices, you see similar, where the primary military support has a 122, and then the military magic support's 127, the other 2 are 130. So this means technically the primary magic support is better in a way. I mean, it's got more rounds, 3 more rounds than the military magic support here. It's got 1 more round than that one and the other combination, the primary military magic, in the 4th tier temple. It's really a small, minute difference, and a little bit of RNG could always change that up. All right, now we're on to the cream of the crop, the 520 temple with MIB and a tier 4 temple that has 50k in primary, military, and magic. Since we've already established it really doesn't matter, and we'll take a look at that here at the end of this chart. That's what we decided. Now, the very first one, the 0k, 0k, that is 0 money spent on the 420 temple, 0 money spent on the 520 temple. That got us beating round 92, lost to 93 DDTs, right? Then we have now we're looking at where the color starts, is where we start with the maxed out tier 4. And we get primary, we get military magic support. So they lose on 135, except for the military loses on 131. the 50k spent with primary military, primary magic, primary support, military magic, military support, magic support, and primary military magic all lose on round 140. Now that's because, and the primary military support there for the 50k. That's because there's two bads. The first one's reinforced and the second one's normal. It's always the first reinforced. We're able to pop it right at the end, but then we lose to the DDTs. Or we get really close to popping it. But no matter what, it was not able to beat round 140. Now, to figure out which one of those combinations is the best, hopefully it doesn't matter because you're not just going to drop 100,000 on a $400,000 or $500,000 tower just to buff it a little bit, right? You're probably going to go all out because you're going to farm a bunch. But if you do, you're going to have differing results on a different map probably. We weren't able to effectively use our Pierce because there's only 2 bad balloons on that round. And so what we really need is damage. We didn't buff him at all. An Alchemist would have taken care of that. A Middle Path Glue would have taken care of that. A Top Path Ice would have taken care of that. So if you have a little bit of extra stuff, maybe you can get a little farther and you'll start seeing some differing results with all of those combinations. But for this test, we just had to leave it as it is. And none of them could beat round 140. So they're very similar in strength, let's just say. Then we get to the outliers of that little test, which is a primary magic support. Again, we're seeing that come out on top by 2 rounds. And that is, these are the 5th tier sacrifices, not the 4th tier. The 4th tier has already been established with primary military magic. So that's coming out on top. But then shortly thereafter is the military magic support. We see that again, just 2 rounds less. Then we've got the maximum 5th tier temple without going for Vengeful True Sun God, which is another 300,000 in other towers, in the 2 other Super Monkey towers, or a little more than 300,000 in addition. So now we've got the 520 temple maxing it out with primary military magic and support takes us to 150. Now this is with the 4th tier having primary military magic maxed out 50k each. So then I decided I would test and see if there's a difference maxing out the 520 temple with the sacrifices you have before it. Surprise, surprise, the only one that suffered was the primary military support. All 3 of them, primary magic support, military magic support, or doing the primary military magic, all 3 of those, perfect. So as long as it's got one of the magics in it, you're golden. It doesn't matter which one you choose. If you got magic in it, you're golden. This map is the map for the temple. I think it's pretty good, other than the wall blocking the line of sight of the avatars. I think it's a pretty decent map, but you don't have a ton of overlap, and so you're not effectively using the temple's Pierce as well as you could be on some other map. But the balloons do kind of overlap sometimes, and the Sun Avatar isn't really missing. He does have pretty much radius of the entire map. So I think it's a pretty good test. I imagine that the strength of these towers with these upgrades is going to be relatively the same in relation to each other. And that's kind of what I wanted to figure out. Not which one was the best and how many rounds you could go, but in relation to each other, which one's the best and how far you can go. Now in the beginning of the video, you did see the VTSG, and we were max buffing him. One of the cool buffs that you may not know about that I actually didn't test for because I didn't know about it myself until I read the wiki is that Admiral Brickle and the aircraft carrier, which is the top path 5th tier boat, can buff the True Sun God, the Sun Temple, the Vengeful True Sun God, when it's on water. And the way you get it on water is you freeze the water with a Middle Path Ice, put the monkey down, then as part of the sacrificing process, you get rid of the Ice Monkey. That removes the freeze from the water, but the temple remains, becoming not only a magic tower, but also a water tower. Just like all other monkeys, it can be buffed. It can be buffed with Gwendolyn's Heated Up. It can be buffed with Pat Fusty's Rallying Cry. It can be buffed with Oben, because he's a magic monkey. And it can be buffed with Voidora, or I keep saying Voidora, Adora, any of the skins, of course, when you use a sacrifice. When you use a sacrifice on something, then the temple will receive that buff. Guys, hope you've enjoyed, hope you've learned something. If you do like the video, don't forget to leave a comment or subscribe. and I'll catch you on the flip side. Deuces.